This meeting is being recorded.
All right, good morning, good afternoon, folks. My name is Kimberly Johnson. I'm a paralegal with the North Carolina Bar Association Paralegal Division, and today is our Power Hour. Our guest speakers today, Diana Santos Johnson, and also, let me make sure I get her first name pronounced correctly, Affy Johnson Paris. They are attorneys that will answer that age-old question: are men better negotiators or women? Again, are men better negotiators than women? That's under our Art of Negotiation Power Hour today. What I'll do first is do a brief introduction on our attorneys, and if you would like a full introduction, feel free to go to the website, North Carolina Bar Association website, to get their full bio. First, Diana Santos Johnson. She's an associate with Waldrop Wall, Babcock and Bailey, and is a part of the firm's bankruptcy team. Before joining, Diana worked as a staff attorney at Legal Aid of North Carolina, Inc. She also served as an associate attorney at Bolton Law Group, representing individual and small business debtors in bankruptcy proceedings in the Middle District of North Carolina. Attorney Affy Johnson Paris. She is a North Carolina board certified family law specialist, is an attorney practicing divorce and family law in Guilford County. She is a partner with the firm Fox Rothschild in Greensboro, North Carolina. All right, our first question right off the bat: are men better negotiators than women? Let's start off with you, Attorney Johnson Paris.
Good morning, everybody, or afternoon. It's actually Affy, like coffee. So I don't think there is I don't think that men are better negotiators than women. I think a lot of times it's situational. Certainly, I feel like myself and my mom were always quite adept at negotiating prices and bartering and shopping and things like that. And I think perhaps have felt less comfortable using similar skills in the professional arena. But I think many of the things that we're talking about today, particularly negotiation, is a skill that can be taught. And I don't think that there's a gender difference in the ability to learn that skill and use it.
Okay, Attorney Johnson, same question.
No, I don't think that men are better negotiators. I think women have a lot of the soft skills that can bring people to the table. But I do want to highlight that in our profession, there are more men than women. And so it may appear that we are often around a lot of men who are successful in negotiations. But I do, like Affy said, that it is a learned skill, and it is something that women can know how to do to help them in the workplace, and also in their home life too.
Okay, before we get started and really dive deep, let's do some definitions. In your opinion, what is negotiation? What is that? Attorney Johnson Paris.
I believe negotiation is the ability to state your position, listen to the other person's position, and then discuss it back and forth and get to yes, getting to a position where both parties can come to an agreement.
Okay, Attorney Johnson.
Well, I mean, definitely what Affy said, but also an agreement that is fair and that is mutually beneficial to both parties, that everyone can agree with, like getting to yes in the best possible way. And in litigation, in maybe the cheapest way, you don't want to go to trial.
Okay, another term I want to ask you ladies about is mansplaining. We hear that, we may use that in our social settings. Mansplaining, can you give us a general definition or your definition? And have you ever encountered mansplaining? Jump right in.
Well, I guess the way I've heard that term used is certainly something that is a more recent term, is where men tend to explain to women positions that they already probably know or things that they already probably know in a way that could possibly be considered demeaning by the woman. And certainly, I think I've been in probably more environments than not that have been heavily dominated by males. I was in the military, now I'm a lawyer. And I've definitely had people, I guess you could probably call it mansplain it to me. But I mean, I feel like the way to deal with that type of thing is to know what you're talking about. Um, I've I've basically been able to engender respect because I come prepared and often know what I'm talking about. And so I haven't had that to be as much of an issue as I think it could be, or when it has been, I felt like I've dealt with it.
Okay, Attorney Johnson?
No, I mean, Effie has described it exactly what it is. It's, people explaining things to you that you may already know. So oftentimes I used to be, like you heard in my bio, represent consumers in bankruptcy. And oftentimes in our consultations, um, the clients would come in and tell me, what bankruptcy could do for them based on their, internet research. And, that's not always the case. And so it's, I know how to do this, not you. So it was just kind of explaining to them, like Effie said, that you come prepared, you know what you're doing, and um, kind of pushing back a little bit in a non-aggressive way. But it's important to let them know that it's not, that they're not correct. They don't
Okay,
have the right background.
you both talk about coming prepared to that negotiation. Tell us in general terms, or even give us an example where what you did or what you prepared to be prepared for that situation. Do you research? Do you do intel research? What skills do you bring to the table to be prepared? We'll start off with you, Attorney Johnson.
So, I mean, it depends what, if I'm doing a negotiation for, another side, with another adversarial party that, we have a trial set up and we have to do negotiation, I do try to, talk with my client and see what they want. What is their goal with this lawsuit? What are they trying to achieve? What are our weakest claims and what are our strongest claims, and how we can focus on that. So it does involve, looking at the evidence that you have on your side and presenting it in the best way and educating your client, because most of the time, they wouldn't be in this position if they didn't think they had a strong case.
Okay, Attorney Johnson Paris.
Well, mediation is court ordered in a lot of what I do as a family lawyer. For custody, parties are ordered to mediate, and in those instances, attorneys are not allowed to go. However, I always bring my client in to prepare them for mediation, and I think preparation for any negotiation is an important part of being successful. So I will talk with the client about, here's kind of what the law is. Here's what you want to achieve. Is that reasonable? How does that mesh with the law? Here's kind of your bottom line. Here are your concerns, so that they're thinking about all of these things and what they want to accomplish before they even go into the mediation, because I'm not there with them. The other thing that I ask clients to consider, and I do this, in any negotiation, is the perspective of the other party. And I encourage them, even if you don't come away with a deal, you can get a lot of intel about the motivations of the other party and what their position is. Your question should be why? Why won't you agree to this? Why is this important to you? So all of those things are part of preparing them for negotiation. It's very similar for equitable distribution. The way that I prepare for that is I try to narrow the issues. I try to find as many points of agreement that we already have, so that we can really be focused in that mediated time on the things that we don't agree about. So we know the universe of what we should be looking at. And then also, again, trying to understand the perspective of the other side and having an idea of what your bottom line is. And so that's the way that I prepare for mediation. You can tell when people just show up because they don't have a command of the universe of what the issue is and kind of what their position is and where they're willing to move to.
All right, great response there. This is your chance now. If you have a question or a comment, this is your chance to raise your hand or unmute, and you can speak to our attorneys. So if you have that, go right ahead and unmute.
Oh, I have a follow-up comment. In most
Yes.
of the mediations that I do, you have an option to prepare like a confidential pre-mediation statement, and it's optional, but we always prepare one because it does, help us prepare in general for the mediation to outline our points. So if you have time to do that, I think that's very helpful.
Okay, again, one more time, don't be shy. If you have a question or comment, this is your chance. If not, we're gonna move on to our next. Camille, did you have a question?
Hey, I was just gonna say hi to our speakers and thank you for being here. And one of the things I would love to hear you cover at any point during the presentation today would be negotiating with our employers over salary or job description or things like more time in or out of the office. So just as you're thinking through your comments today, if you have any thoughts about that, I'd really appreciate hearing that.
Certainly.
Thanks.
Well, I mean, just to speak to that, I think it comes back to preparation. With the blessing of the internet, there's so much information out there about salary ranges, job descriptions, and things like that. And so I think before you even approach an employer about things that you would like changed, you should have put in the work to research, what are paralegals in similar markets to mine being paid? What does their job description look like relative to what my job description is? That way I'm trying to compare apples to apples instead of apples to oranges. So I think that preparation is an important part of that. The other thing that I would say, very similar to kind of what I said before, understanding, the position of the other side. What is it that's going to matter to that employer? Do they want in-person coverage? Do they want certain hours of access to you if you're, like, say for example, trying to negotiate working from home? What is it that other side wants, so that you can kind of try to address that in what you're asking for, or be able to sort of find a solution for concerns that they might have. So again, preparation and considering the other position, and then knowing, like I said before, the universe of issues that you're talking about. What is it that you're trying to accomplish? What is it that you want? So, knowing, out of the things that I want to address with the employer, maybe salary isn't as important as flexibility of your time. Having already sort of thought through what your objective is and the issues are, I think makes you, again, better prepared for that type of negotiation. So certainly whenever I've negotiated my salary, I came in thinking about, what my bottom line was, what I need to, make my bills, what I think I'm worth. And then not just what I think I'm worth, because I think a lot of times people kind of sell themselves short, but when I'm looking in that research out there to see what other people who are similarly situated, what they're being paid, what they're worth, that just made me better prepared to come back and say, this number doesn't work for me, this does.
All right, Attorney Johnson.
What Afi said is all very helpful, but one thing, like she kind of touched on it, is to know the circumstances. If your employer has just lost a big client, that may not be the right time to ask for a monetary raise, but you could ask for other things that are very important right now. I know is working remotely, like those are always negotiable. And, sometimes vacation days, even those are financial, extra vacation days, those things, think about what it's going to take for you to be happy in your workplace. And it usually involves more than just a salary number. So being prepared and thinking about that. And I think I'm going to send something out after this, but it's with the internet now, it's so easier to find out what people make in by regions, and you can, see what your scale is based on somebody else. And that can give you a little bit of ammunition to ask for more if it's in the right circumstance with your employers.
All right, thank you both. And thank you again,
Thank
Camille,
you.
for that question. Did you have a follow-up, Camille?
No, I was just going to say thank you.
All right, anyone else? We've got some good comment going. Do we have anyone else? All right, we're going to continue on with my next question. This is in the paralegal space. For both of you, what are some skills, hard skills, soft skills that you look for in working with a paralegal? And Attorney Johnson, you can start us off.
Sure. So I definitely want someone who has a good attitude and is willing to learn. In the practice area that I do, it's a little bit complex. You're looking at, a 50+ page bankruptcy petition. So I want someone who is, who pays attention to those details and to, there's a ton of questions that are being asked. A lot of them are no, but when they're yes, that usually means that there's an asset that they have that we might need to investigate. So attention to detail is very important. And being, accepting feedback. Like we sometimes have to change the software that we use, and it's complicated and steps are missed. But, when people, when I can approach a paralegal and say, you missed this time, but let's focus on catching it next time. And they, are accepting of that. I think that that's very helpful.
Okay, Attorney Johnson Paris, same question.
For me, attitude is really important. I can't train that. So I definitely want somebody who has a can-do attitude and who doesn't take it personally when you're making corrections. They're not defensive about that. They can own a typo and it's not the end of the world. We all make mistakes. And so I think a person who's willing to acknowledge that and have the right attitude about that is really critical. So that's probably more, those are the soft skills things. The other soft skill thing is the ability to communicate well with people, particularly in my line of work. Empathy is important, yet professionalism and maintaining a little bit of distance with the client so that they're not, you're not there to be their best friends, but you want them to feel like you are friendly. So a paralegal who's able to manage clients in that vein is really important to me. From the perspective of particular skills on the job, that attention to detail is everything. I try to push tasks down to the lowest cost provider. So proofing something, the first line of attack is going to be my paralegal because it's, less expensive for a client to have them do that type of thing than me. And so I don't want to make corrections that it doesn't take a law degree to correct. I want, I want to focus on the things that I do and only I can do, and let the paralegal cover the things that they, could have the ability and training to do. And so, that's really important to me. At the end of the day, when, my signature is on something and my bar license is implicated on work that we do, I'm never going to say, oh, my paralegal messed that up. And so it's really important to have someone who has attention to detail, because all of the mistakes are ultimately going to be mine, and I make enough on my own. So the other thing that I would say is organization. I kind of leave it to my paralegals to organize cases and manage cases. So project management skills, I think, are really important, and to be able to organize large amounts of data in really effective ways. And I think the last thing that's really important to me about a good paralegal, I'm thinking about my paralegal. She's awesome. The other thing is important is that true partnership and team, a team in terms of what we do. I like to ask her, what do you think of this? How does this sound to you? You know, I'll do a email to a client and I'll read it to her, you know, making sure it has the right tone. So I really feel like, you know, her judgment is important to me. I mean, ultimately, you know, my judgment is the bottom line, but she's a part of the team and I need to hear what she says. And I need somebody who's not going to be afraid to tell me, you know, hey, I don't think this is right. Why is this being done that way? So that I can even, you know, pause and step back and think. So that's really important to me, having that team player who realizes that their input is really important to my team.
All right, great answers there, great responses. Peggy, you have your hand up. Do you have a question, comment?
Yes, I do. I'm a family law paralegal. And so it sounded to me like you do a lot of the drafting or other staff members, and then the paralegal reviews it. Does your paralegal do any of the drafting? And if so, what is your review process for your paralegal's work being reviewed versus yours, since you usually shuffle it down to the least expensive person?
Yeah, so when I say I put things down to the low cost provider, as a result, my paralegal does tend to do the first draft of things. Even if it's like something more complex, I'll just have her, you know, just set up the document for me. I'll go in and make the changes. I don't want to have to set up the numbering and set up all that type of stuff. Again, you know, things that she can do, and it doesn't take a law degree to do that. I want to be focused on the meat of the document. So she's generally the first line of defense. And then after I do something, I ask her to give another look because, like I said, I make enough mistakes on my own. So I always, you know, ask a second look, you know, is the formatting right? Did I misspell anything? Did I miss a word that spell check isn't going to catch? And, you know, I've read it too many times and can't catch that. So that's why, you know, her view is really important. And again, those aren't things that take a law degree to do, but those are things that a good paralegal is able to assist with.
All right, Attorney Johnson, follow up, please.
Oh, I just wanted to comment and say that we've had documents where 4 attorneys in the office look at it and the paralegal looks at it and the date is wrong, or it's in the wrong, like the wrong courthouse. And, you know, we need that at the end because, you know, we have just seen it so many times that we didn't, you know, think to look at the date. So we, you know, just the attention to detail is very important.
Okay. Did you have something else, Attorney Johnson Paris?
No.
Okay, I want to stay here and I want to, you guys, if you will, with our paralegals, sometimes you have good interactions, sometimes you have not so good interactions. Can you each give us an example of a not so good interaction and how you guys work through it?
You mean not so good with my paralegal?
Yes, if there was, and again, you can tell us what you can frame that.
Okay, so I'll go ahead, Diana.
Oh, okay. Well, I was going to say this is something that hasn't happened to me, but I can see it happening. You know, another attorney, I was talking to them about this presentation. And one of the things, and this goes back to kind of negotiating the salary. And if you're in private practice, you know, the paralegals have a billable hour rate. And usually it doesn't, just like an attorney, it doesn't align with the salary that you actually take home. So sometimes, you know, really focusing on that rate that, you know, we're charging for you and expecting to get paid that same amount, you know, and not thinking about overhead cost and things like that. I think that's kind of a turnoff when paralegals, you know, just see that number that we send to the client, that, you know, what we're charging for them. And it is, you know, usually a higher number than your salary. But, you know, when you just focus on that one number and the work that you do, I think, you know, it shows that you don't see the overall picture of running a law firm.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say I haven't had this with my paralegal, but I had this happen yesterday where you know, working with staff, and I mean, you're trying to determine a process or a way that you want things done. And when people get frustrated and say, well, fine, I just won't do that particular task. Attitude is everything. You know, I never want to be the one to say it's my way or the highway, but ultimately I want to work collaboratively with staff to figure out a way to get things done. And so I don't have the option of throwing up my hands and saying, forget it, I just won't do that task. And so I would never want someone else to have the same position or point of view. So that's why, again, that it's that soft skill. Attitude is everything, and being client focused and willing to do what we need to do to take care of clients, I think is important.
All right, thank you. Thank you both. Again, this is our chance now. If we have anyone that would like to interact with our attorneys, if you have a comment or you have a question, you can unmute if you would like to do that, or raise your hand and you can speak directly to them. If we have any paralegal students, if you would like to, here's your chance to speak directly to an attorney. So you have any kind of question, you can pose that question. If we don't have any takers, I want to ask, yes, Paul, go right ahead.
Good afternoon. I've enjoyed listening to what you've had to say so far. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. One skill I haven't heard you talk about yet is the ability to perform critical thinking, especially in the area of solutions. Now, I've had a lot of experience on committees, and in fact, now I chair the Rockingham County Planning Board and Board of Adjustment. And when looking for solutions, it's important to consider almost all solutions you can come up with, even if they aren't good ones. Like our legislators in the General Assembly, we elect them to pass our laws, but we never told them they had to be good laws. And so we have a lot of conflict that develops. But one thing that makes a negotiator almost indispensable, in my experience, is the ability to consider a lot of solutions, even the opposing side solutions, so that you have an argument that you can make during any kind of negotiation.
Right. Well, I would definitely have to agree with you, Paul, that critical thinking is important. You know, I don't think it takes a law degree for that. I think it's just a skill that's necessary in an arena like we have. I mean, when you're practicing law, you're generally here to solve people's problems. And so you might not always know the answer to the question, but having that attitude, when I was in basic training, it was like, I do not know, but I will find out. That was the answer. You could never stop at, I do not know. And so in terms of, you know, having the ability to work as a paralegal or as a lawyer, anybody in a problem solving arena, I think critical thinking is important. And like you said, you know, understanding the perspective and all of the possible solutions, I would agree that that's necessary to good negotiation, is thinking critically about the problem and how it could be solved.
Attorney Johnson, do you have any follow-up with that?
No, but I would like to comment that you know, critical thinking, like Effie said, you don't have to be an attorney to do it, but I think the longer that you work in a certain practice area and with certain types of cases, the easier it is to kind of know what the options are. So something, you know, I think that's something that can be learned, and over time it gets better when you have more experience.
Okay, we do have one question here. How many times do you pass back and forth a draft on average between you and your paralegal? And that's from Paige. So thank you, Paige.
I would probably say no more than twice. I mean, normally after I mark it up the first time, I like to get it back with the clean draft and then what I marked up the first time, so I could sort of look back and forth. But sometimes it happens twice, but normally it's about one time.
Okay, Attorney Johnson?
It's pretty much the same for me. It also depends on what it is. If it's a notice of appearance that we've done hundreds of times, I don't even need to see that. Just add my name and make sure the case number is correct. But,
Mhm.
it just varies on what kind of pleading it is.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go right ahead, Attorney Johnson Paris.
Yeah, I was gonna say I agree. A good paralegal is a trusted paralegal. And so on something as simple as that, I'm trusting you to have that right. Now every now and then I will catch something, but I'm trusting things like that to be right and putting my name on it. So I just always hope that that trust is respected.
Mhm, of course, yeah. For our paralegal students, if you could give them a 30-second advice stamp, what would it be? Start with you, Attorney Johnson. 30 seconds. You're going to give that person advice. You're a paralegal student. They're getting it from you, the expert.
So, would 100% have a good attitude at, like on your first day, come in willing to do whatever, that is needed that day. And if you don't know how to do something, ask to do it. We've had new paralegals and even legal assistants when they get asked to do something, they don't sit at their desk for 30 minutes trying to figure it out. They ask other people. And I think that that makes, everyone's time better. So just not being afraid to say that you don't know anything and just, overall having a good attitude that's just the top thing, I think.
All right, Attorney Johnson Paris, 30 seconds.
I think the good attitude is really important. Again, having that sort of I don't know, but I will find out mindset, being willing to dig for it. I mean, like I said, the blessing of the internet, my first step oftentimes is Google. And to just put me in the right direction and not being afraid to ask why and understand what you're doing. Try to make sure you're understanding what you're doing and you're not just cutting and pasting.
Okay. Do we have any additional questions before I get started? I've got a great question, but I want to make sure everyone has their opportunity to comment, to make a question happen. All right, let me move on to my question. I wanted to ask you ladies, what do you do to relax? What do you do for fun?
I don't have a lot of fun. Um, I almost have my kids out the house, so maybe I'll have more fun soon. Um, I mean, I try not to think about work. Um, I love a good nap. That kind of resets the brain for me. So if I'm going to relax, I might just take a good nap or listen to a book on tape.
Okay. Attorney Johnson?
Um, my kids are kind of the opposite where they're still young and in the house. So my whole time is tied up with them. But I do try to do something with them that is not, where I'm not on my phone and they don't, I'm not checking emails. So we try to do a lot of walks now that it's getting warmer and, reading and just playing with them because, the time that I do have is very short with them. So I want to spend time with them. Even though it's not relaxing, I still enjoy being with them.
Okay, same vein. Folks talk about work-life balance. How do you ladies figure into that equation, work-life balance? What do you do? What does it look like?
Mm, I mean, I have a good husband. So that's made all the difference in the world. I have a team. So I don't have to do everything. And I have somebody who's, there to sort of help me when I need a little extra help at home. I'm more willing now to outsource things so that my time is focused on the things that I want to do or the things that only I can do or might be my best use of my time. So I feel like I've gotten a little bit better with that. When my kids were little, having good childcare. If I had good childcare, then I could focus at work and I could get that stuff done. And so that for me has been the way to balance everything is, good husband, good childcare.
Okay, Attorney Johnson?
Well, I definitely want to follow up with, good husband, good childcare, and then good partners. I work with, just people who understand family. And, one of the things that I was able to do is negotiate the time that I leave the office because, you know, normally I'm not meeting with clients. I don't have a deadline at, 5:15. So I, leave. And if I just leave at 5:15 because I want to be able to pick up my children. And if there's something that I need to finish up that's not time sensitive, I can just do it when I get home. And so we've been able to, they've been understanding that that's a priority for me right now. And they understand that, um, that it's okay for me to leave at 5:15. They know how to find me and I know how to get back on if I need to be back on. But definitely, a good partner, good childcare, and then, good partners and in the law firm.
All right, teamwork. You ladies talked about teamwork. All right, and you may lead a team, be it in your specific office or even in other dimensions of your work life. Tell us, as a leader in your team, how do you communicate? Each person, you have to speak to each person differently. You can't use the same brush with everyone. So could you give us an example how the folks in your team describe how you communicate with them? How do you negotiate something with them? Just jump on in.
So we have, some of the work that I do just involves a lot of different people because we have, we're working on these huge cases that have, associates, paralegals, and other partners doing different tasks. So one thing is that we just, all of us try to stay on the same page and communicate with each other with deadlines and, who's going to talk to the client, who's going to court. So it's just kind of, making sure that you know what everybody else is doing on the team. And, if someone's not able to do that, then you can help pick up for them.
When I think about leading a team and communicating with the team, I try to treat people the way I want to be treated. When I first started practicing law, I worked with yellers, and that wasn't okay. I just never felt that you needed to treat people that way to get them to do stuff. And I felt like if I didn't have to yell at people when I was in the Air Force and I could deal with, millions of dollars worth of equipment and, things that were national security important, that there was not a thing in my law practice that would necessitate me yelling at someone or treating a staff member in a way that I wouldn't want to be treated. So I've always tried to remember that. And sometimes the way I communicate is if I'm too upset about something or not in the right headspace, then you don't send that email or you don't talk about it. You take a pause so that you can collect yourself and say things in a way that will be well received. And so that's how I try to communicate with people, just in a way of mutual respect, so that they aren't afraid of me and they appreciate that we are a team and everybody on the team is important.
All right, great, great, great. Again, this is your chance. You can raise your hand or unmute if you have a question for our panelists. They give out some great information. Want you to be a part of that also. So again, if you have a question, comment, or just something that you want them to know about you, feel free to do that at this time. Yes, sir. Go right ahead, Paul.
One piece of advice I could give to paralegal students, in my experience in working with attorneys for different types of projects, when you're given an assignment by an attorney, don't wait to start. Start as quickly as you can. Get a jump on it, because time goes by so fast that if you wait a day or two or three to start it, you're already eating up your deadline unnecessarily. So the best advice I could give someone that's a paralegal student is start as soon as you can on any kind of project you're given.
Yeah, and I would like to follow up that with ask when when they want the assignment.
Yeah,
Sometimes it's not clear.
the other thing that I think is helpful to know, and this, really goes back to negotiation, but would be helpful for paralegals, is particularly if you have more than one person that you're working for and more than one person that's demanding of your time and assigning tasks to you, you want to make sure that you are negotiating when things will be completed. So for example, if you have 3 different partners who say, I want this on Tuesday, you know, it's important for you to speak up and say, you know, Bob asked me to have this on Tuesday and Mary asked me to have this on Tuesday. Can you help me prioritize this task so that I can make the deadline for all of you guys? And put it back to the assigning attorneys to coordinate amongst themselves, perhaps to help give you direction as to when things should be done. That way you won't let anybody down and you won't be stressed out about when something will be done. It's really important to communicate reasonable expectations about getting things done. I tell people, you know, it's better to under promise and over deliver.
That is so true. That is so true. All right. I want to go back into the office, if you will. Adversarial meetings. How do you ladies deal with that? I know a lot of times we watch the TV shows and you see that back and forth, but is it really like that in real life? The adversarial confrontation. Talk about that. What do you do? Or give us an example where you were in one and how you solved that or you dealt with it.
Well, I mean, like I said, I used to work with yellers. I'm not there anymore. The way I sort of handle, you know, sometimes clients get upset or people are heated about things that are happening. And I just feel like you move past the point of productivity when people aren't able to be civil and talk to each other. And so I often use that as an opportunity to reset, keeping my composure and just saying, you know, I recognize that this is upsetting. And so I think it's better that we talk about this later. And so that's kind of how I've handled it. But I definitely have not seen what they show on TV in terms of, and I mean, gosh, divorces is about as adversarial as you can get. But most of my colleagues that I work with over and over again are trusted colleagues, and we have great relationships. And so treating people the way I want to be treated is an important part of minimizing those adversarial situations.
All right, Attorney Johnson.
So in my practice area, I do bankruptcy and we have a very small bar and we all need each other. You know, I need a debtor's counsel to file a case so that I can represent the bank and, you know, we all get paid. So we just are more collegial than maybe other practice areas. And, you know, like I said, it's a small bar. We see each other all the time. So we never, I mean, very rarely are there cases that, you know, we're really fighting about. So that's been a nice way to practice law, to work with people who are reasonable and, you know, kind of need each other to keep the practice going.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
that sounds good.
I
Yes.
would agree. I mean, the family law bar is not very large either. Like I said, it's the same players over and over again. And I mean, I let clients know up front, you know, the great relationship that I have with opposing counsel means that I can pick up the phone and say, can I get a week's extension versus having to file a motion for a continuance. And so like treating people the way I want to be treated, extending grace, so that hopefully one day I'll be able to, you know, receive some grace in return if I need it, I think is an important part of the way we interact with each other.
All right, great. I like that. Did you ladies have a slide or two that you wanted to present?
I just had one slide that focuses on the negotiation skills
Okay.
that I will share. Okay. So I hope you guys can see that.
Yep.
So these are my top 3 resources for gaining negotiation skills. Again, I feel like this is absolutely something that you are able to learn. It's not, you're a natural negotiator. The classic book on this, Getting to Yes, it's something I've had taught in classes long time ago, but it just basically talks about, some of the things that we've mentioned here, understanding the position of everybody and trying to find a reasonable outcome that kind of works for everybody. I always tell clients, if you feel like, you won, that's rarely the feeling that you'll get coming out of a mediation or a negotiation. But if you feel like you got something you could live with, then that's about the sweet spot. The other thing that I would suggest is Harvard Business School has really good materials online that are free. Here's the link to their blog, and you can search for the different topics that they cover, but negotiation is a really robust topic that they mention quite a bit. And then the last thing is take classes. I've taken classes for just general negotiating skills for business people, not law specific. The North Carolina Bar Association, if you look through the CLE library, they have classes on negotiation. And then our local business schools, you just have to Google, negotiation classes. Carolina, Wake, several of the business schools in my area offer classes on negotiation. So those are my top 3 resources of ways that you can gain these skills.
And I would like to also add that, with Harvard, their law school has a program on negotiation, and they also have a lot of free online tools and workbooks that you can check out. And I think that's in one of the links that I sent also.
Okay, great. Good information, folks. Make sure you tap into it. This is our last call for questions or comments. Again, you can unmute if you want to speak directly to our attorneys, or if you want to put something in the chat, feel free to do that.
I'm Tina Daddio. I work at UNC Charlotte, but I just want to say thank you. It was very informative. I also want to say that for the paralegal students, I've mentors paralegals and I supervise them. So that's, it's a little bit difficult on some respect, but we work as a team, and I never make them feel that they're anything less. And I would say for the new paralegals to just try to find a paralegal that's been there, that's a seasoned paralegal, and have, like, hopefully your offices have them mentor them, like have a mentor, senior paralegal, and that will benefit them because they've been there, they understand the dynamics. And I think attitude, is number one. Like you said, you really can't help someone gain that skill. You either have it, you're empathetic, or you kind of have a rough edge. And I've worked with a lot of attorneys before. I love the attorneys I work with now. We are like a family, but before, I've had, attorneys screaming and wanting things all at one time. But if you have a good paralegal that's seasoned and senior paralegal who can mentor you, and if you can hold on to them and gain as much knowledge with them, that to me is that will help you in becoming a senior paralegal yourself. But thank you.
Oh, thank you, Tina. Tina's a good resource. So if you have a chance to reach out to her, please do that. All right, we're getting ready to wrap up. And
There's a question in the chat.
Yeah,
Oh,
there's a question in the chat.
Chat question. Here we go. Paige, do you have advice on how to calendar? I just got assigned with helping the lead attorney with his calendar, and I'm a little bit overwhelmed with keeping up with many dates mentioned in many different emails. This goes to organization, things on that line. Jump at it.
So I think if you can, it definitely involves organization. And, I think if you get the emails, if they come specifically from him, I know that there's ways that you can highlight the emails from a certain person. So if you're not able to keep up with adding them to the calendar, as they come in, maybe like set a specific time each day, like at 5 o'clock, and highlight all of his emails and see which ones have a date and did you calendar it? Something like that. I think that was a good way to kind of get started. But calendaring, you just really have to be organized and know what cases are on. And depending on what courts you're on, checking their calendars too to make sure that, the attorney's name's not on a calendar and it's not on your personal calendar. That's something that we used to do a lot in bankruptcy court, is just check their calendar ahead of time to make sure our cases weren't on and we knew if we had court or not.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I would say is come up with a process,
Yes.
a workflow for this. On Tuesdays, I will check the court calendars to search for our names, and this is what I will do. Daily at 5 o'clock, I will, have a sit down with the partner or check in with them, or, I will have all of the emails from this particular partner go to this particular file, and whatever your process is, have a process. Because that is the way, having step-by-step and ways to do things is often the best way to not let anything slip through the cracks.
And
Alright.
if there was someone else that was doing it before, maybe ask them if there was a way that worked for them, or maybe sit down with the partner being like, I'm new to this. Is there a special way that you want this to go?
All right, that's great question, Paige. Definitely hope you got that answered. All right, our last question. Again, we're out of the office, something fun. With this being award season and you've got every SAG, every Oscar, things like that, the Grammys. Ladies, can you give us your favorite actor or your favorite song, something you relax to, or someone you like to watch on Netflix or Tubi or something like that? Something, can you do that for us? Just let us know who you like to listen to.
I'm a little old school. I listen to Sade.
Okay.
So she hasn't put out anything new in probably a decade, but that's my person that's at the top of my list. So.
Okay. All right, Attorney Johnson, who do you like to listen to or watch on the TV?
So I don't love to listen to her, but this is what my daughter is into. So we've been becoming all about Taylor Swift now, trying to go see her, make bracelets. We were able to see the movie. So she's, that's something that she's into. So now I'm into that, to spend time with her. But I did enjoy the Grammys and to see Tracy Chapman there and, all the buzz around that. I thought that was a lovely American experience.
Yep.
All right.
I watch that too. My daughter's a Swiftie as well.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I like her. She and Travis Kelce. Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
All right. Thank you both for that. I want to again thank you, Attorney Santos Johnson, Attorney Johnson Perez. Let's give them a hand. We enjoyed them today. And again, we will definitely put you on our calendar. We'd love for you to come back later on this year or next year to be a part of the Paralegal Division's Power Hour team. All right. Thank you very much. And you guys have a great day. And everyone, you have a great day too. See you at the next Power Hour next month.
Bye.